is one big pile of shit.
I got nothing. Honest to God, I got nothing. I got no funny quip, no cool fancy introduction, nothing. I have absolutely nothing. Yeah, guys, I know there's supposed to be a review of this right now. Today I'm depressed. Let's just talk about it right now, because I think that's the best way to, relinquish the pain a little bit. So let's start out with the timeline just based on Superman's story. The first Man of Steel was absolutely terrible. And while of course it was extremely divisive on people, some really love it, some really hate it. I'm one of the people who hate it. Bottom line, it made a whole lot of money. And you know what? After I was watching the movie, I was sitting there thinking, okay, Zack Snyder completely just scratched away anything that was terrible about the first Man of Steel movie and just make it, a sequel and make it a little bit better. Make the Superman more charismatic, more likable. But unfortunately, Warner Brothers chewed up and crapped out my favorite superheroes, Superman and Batman, on screen together and called it a face-off movie. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, which was one of, if not the worst, superhero movie I have ever seen. It was way too long, just 2 hours and 30 minutes of my life getting drained, while at the same time the film is trying to be future installment for future movies of the Justice League, and they handled it in such the worst possible way. And the worst part is about that movie, it made over $500 million worldwide, which is extraordinarily terrifying. And when it came out on Blu-ray and DVD, I realized this horrifying fact that they released the Ultimate Edition and everyone's like, oh my god, Zack Snyder has actually made a good movie. Which to this day, that Ultimate Edition, I still boycott to this day. And we are here with Zack Snyder's latest film in the DC Cinematic Universe, Justice League. So the film basically sets off after the death of Superman from Batman v Superman, and everyone has completely mourned the fact that their favorite icon has been killed. Metropolis is in a more grim, depressive state than it already has been in Man of Steel, and Metropolis as well is still very worried about the next possible invasion on Earth. And right now is exactly what's happening here. Here you have Steppenwolf in this movie. He's being played by the talented Kieran Hines, who is so unbelievably wasted here. He and the rest of his parademons are trying to invade Earth just to find all 3 mother boxes. That way, if they gather them all together, they will basically unleash the apocalypse upon the apocalypses, basically Armageddon. However, with the new and improved Justice League, that's not gonna fly. So you have Ben Affleck, who plays once again as Batman, and Gal Gadot, who plays once again as Wonder Woman, who go out to find recruits for the Justice League, basically Ray Fisher as Cyborg, Ezra Miller as the Flash, and Jason Momoa as Aquaman, basically the 3 little other cameos in Batman v Superman. So that way, if they team up, they can stop Steppenwolf's reign of Armageddon from happening. Okay, to be completely honest, I don't know where to start, so let's start with the story. The film, when it boils right down to it, plot-wise, is terribly stupid on so many levels. It's not entirely because of the fact that they're trying to recreate the Avengers storyline and they're trying to do it differently. No, it's because the characters and the motivations that they have completely drive the story, and the screenplay from start to finish is all over the place. It basically starts from one fight scene, and then it goes into another fight scene, and then the cast basically formed together just to explain the plot for you for very horrible dialogue, and then rinse, wash, repeat. And you can tell, after the very sincere heart loss of Zack Snyder's daughter, the film's post-production has been taken over by Joss Whedon, who was in charge of, taking some things out just to, oomph the movie a little bit. But no, it just made it inconsistently worse. One of my biggest complaints with Justice League is its completely inconsistent tone and its pathetic humor. What I really mean by inconsistent tone is that you can obviously tell it's made by 2 different people. Zack Snyder for the grim and gritty serious kind, and Joss Whedon for the funny, hilarious kind. But the thing is, the way they handle it is so poor. I constantly look at the movie because of the inconsistent tonal change, and I'm like, am I watching the same movie? For example, there's this battle sequence where many people are getting killed left and right, and it's just, devastating warfare. However, it immediately cuts to like a funny, ha 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 ha, very funny news reporter just telling about the fact that, that there is this widow who has his husband taken away by, aliens. And, because she's a lonely housewife and she's bewildered because of the fact that, aliens have invaded her home. She has to swear like, over the place, and they have to like put the censor sound every time she curses. We're so funny. No, you're not. And the humor that you basically see that involves, the camaraderie between the characters, it's not that good either. But we'll get to a specific character who's responsible for that. Let me talk about the editing. So the movie was supposed to be, 2 hours and 50 minutes long. But, since Joss Whedon came into production, he decided to, take 50 minutes out of the movie just to make it a 2-hour long movie. Which, mind you, trimming things down in just a 2-hour movie is always a terrible idea. I mean, Warcraft suffered from this, Suicide Squad suffered from this, and because of the poor editing, you barely have enough time to see the characters in this film develop or, grow an arch toward the end. And the transitions in between scenes are so off-putting that you automatically feel confused as to what happened before, why it happened, what was going on, how they did it, or what they have to do next. And you know what? That isn't even the worst problems. Let's start with the terrible acting. I'll quickly go through actors who are completely wasted in the movie. Ciarán Hinds, who plays Steppenwolf, completely wasted as a character. He's basically known just to be this big baddie villain who just wants to do big baddie things just so he can take over the world in a big baddie fashion. Amy Adams is Lois Lane. She's a plot device, not a character. Billy Crudup plays the Flash's father, unforgivably wasted because his character could have been played by anybody. And speaking of being played by anybody, J.K. Simmons is in this film as Commissioner Gordon for 3 scenes. 3 scenes. I'll boil it down to this. J.K. Simmons is basically J. Jonah Jameson if he had no humor, no life, no charisma whatsoever. However, those are the least of the problems. Let's start with the primary 5 characters. Let's start off with the supposed leader of the Justice League, Batman, played by Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck, he has been good in some movies, but here, he is unbelievably terrible. Every line he has to deliver is completely mopey, so serious, unemotional, and unengaging. It's the type of performance that you would see, okay, that actor is clearly there just for a check. You can obviously tell he doesn't want to be there. You can see it in his face when he's acting. He does not want to be there. However, Ben Affleck's the least of the problems. Let's start with Gal Gadot, cause clearly, Gal Gadot's agents have been obviously talking to the scriptwriter saying, look, she's fabulous. She has been doing such a wonderful job in the past 2 movies. What she had to deal with was just a cameo in the last movie, and she's really been window dressing. And what we really think is that we need to sort of expand her role and make her more humanized. You know what I said about Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman in my Wonder Woman review? You remember what I said about Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman in my top 10 worst list of 2016 video? Henry Cavill proves himself yet again to be the worst on-screen Superman by many miles. And I forgot to mention this character in my review of the movie, Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. Yeah, Gal Gadot is Wonder Woman in this movie, and she's awful. Well, I have to be completely honest and say that she really acquits herself admirably. No, I was right the first time. She's a terrible actor. She's still on the freaking dark side. Gal Gadot delivers lines as if she's literally reading a script out loud. And usually, like, her acting has always been wooden, but, like, this time, it is like a petrified forest of woodenness. I mean, you really can make a piece of IKEA furniture out of her performance. It's that bad. And when she and the rest of the 5 characters are on screen together, it's like watching 5 chairs mating. And there's a scene in which Ben Affleck and Wonder Woman are arguing, and you're like, what is that? Is that a bunch of tables fighting each other? No! It is Gal Gadot and Ben Affleck having some fiery, anger towards each other. It's possibly egregious. So Gal Gadot, Ben Affleck get more stuff to do, messes them up terribly. And then we have the rest of the Justice League. First of all, let's start with one specific character, the Flash played by Ezra Miller. There's this one particular line in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy where Arthur Dent meets up with the Martin Freeman character, and he says, it's one of those things that you haven't seen for months at a time, and as soon as you saw him, he's immediately annoying. And Ezra Miller in Justice League is exactly, but he's immediately annoying squared. He's immediately annoying to the power of 10 because he has nothing to do but to deliver quippy jokes, comedy bits, just to provide, the movie's version of comic relief. And not one of his jokes are funny. Here in this movie, he just acts like an angsty teenager. And yes, his performance is surprisingly bad, because the last time I've seen him in anything that he did great on is the movie about the Stanford prison experiment. Go watch that movie. Great performance by Ezra Miller. Here, done so badly. And then we have the two most dullest actors in the movie, Jason Momoa as Aquaman and Ray Fisher as Cyborg. The performances are delivered so emotionally that every time I saw them on screen together, I got bored. There's not one character you care about in this entire movie because you typically know that by the end of it, they're gonna be okay. None of their characters will change. They're gonna remain friends for the rest of the franchise. And the film, much like a lot of movies in the DC Cinematic Universe, have no tension. And because of the fact that there are no stakes in it whatsoever, there's no tension at all, you barely will even care if they live or die. And heck, there's even a side plot which basically involves a family inside of a house being invaded by parademons, and we're expected to care about them. Like, who are these people? Why should I care about them? What are they doing on screen? Other than just wasting the script's time? And let's just get to the overabundance of terrible CGI. This film is filled to the brim with an overabundance of terrible CGI. When you see a CG character like Steppenwolf on screen, you can obviously tell it's CG and it's not there. When you see like little effects like, you know, the flashes lightning or water coming into the air, you can obviously tell it's fake because of how poorly composited they are. Or when characters are flying or jumping and the camera is pointed right in front of them, you can obviously tell that in the background, there's a green screen behind them. In the action scenes, I mean, people have been, waiting, to see the action scenes. Oh, it's so excited to, see the Justice League in action, kicking some alien butt. Instead, they're basically the equivalent of fight scenes you would see in Batman v Superman, Man of Steel, Suicide Squad, where every single fight scene is incoherent, sloppily done, completely overlong, and there was just bang, crash, boom! For the rest of the action scenes. Every time there was like an explosion or a bombastic action scene with a lot of explosions, bangs, booms and stuff, I got bored almost immediately and started, checking out of the film. And speaking of nauseating, the dialogue. Who wrote this? Every time there was like a line being delivered, whether it's like a quippy joke or just a very sincere remark or just anything at all that has to do with the story, it's either poorly written, completely filled with exposition just explaining the plot over and over and over again. And the worst line in the movie that it's just supposed to be, empowering. Batman is driving around in a car fighting parademons, and then all of a sudden the Justice League came in to go and save him. And this basically happens in like the film's climax. Ben Affleck as Batman says to Alfred, "Alfred, this isn't the plan!" And Jeremy Irons turns to Batman and says, in heroic fashion, so he smiles and poses at the same time, "No, this is the team." Screenwriters around the world cried their freaking eyes out because of those lines being delivered, because of the people who wrote this movie. I'm talking to you, Chris Terrio, writer of Argo. Okay, so before the ending, I'm gonna give away a plot point now. If you're going to sit through 2 hours of Justice League, and why the hell would you do that? Turn your ears away from the review now, because there is a moment towards the middle of this film in which it is contrived to have the Justice League try and to stop Steppenwolf by trying to revive the most important character of the Justice League after he's been killed in the last movie. Superman. That's right. Superman. And why should it be even a spoil to you? You obviously know he was gonna come back. And don't be go like, oh, spoiler alert. You obviously knew he was gonna come. You saw it in the final frame of Batman v Superman. You saw it! Basically what they're trying to do is that, since Steppenwolf is trying to hunt for the other mother boxes, because that's pretty much his goal on unleashing Armageddon, the Justice League figure out that the only way to stop Steppenwolf is to revive Superman. And believe me, I'm making this sound more interesting than it is on screen. They go and take one of the mother boxes that they protected away from Steppenwolf and the rest of his army, and they went back to the Krypton ship to where, Lex Luthor generated General Zod's body with his to form Doomsday. They do the exact same thing to revive Superman. They try to, revive him with the mother box because apparently the mother box has so much energy inside of it that it is enough with an electrical current from the Flash, it can revive Superman like that. And surprisingly enough, that's exactly what happened. Superman comes up, it rises up, and everyone's like, heck yeah, Superman's back on screen. But my reaction was like, oh my god, Superman's back on screen again. What on earth are they doing? And Superman at first starts, being a little violent because he's not acting like himself. And then Superman starts to act a little bit violent and fight against the Justice League, only to result in, Lois Lane going up to Clark Kent. And, since Clark Kent has no idea who he is, he finally realizes who he is because of Lois Lane. See what I mean by plot device? However, there was this one line that Wonder Woman says that honestly shocked me to my core. That she would say something completely insightful. Basically saying, hey, Bruce Wayne, you have no idea what you're doing. This is a terrible idea. I'm sorry. I hate to say this to you, but I agree with her. If Batman was like, okay, we're gonna have to stop Steppenwolf, and the only way we have to do this is that we're gonna have to revive Superman, I'll be like, no, I don't want to see Superman again. Like, this is a terrible idea. And when I heard Wonder Woman, a character who I didn't really like in the movies to begin with, say something so incredibly insightful, I was like, sign me up. Because I don't want to stand a numb moment of sitting there in the cinema, watching Henry Cavill just waltz around mopeyly, just acting like the presence of hope when he's basically just this mediocre actor. Like, what? How has he become the prominent actor that he has? I mean, he was okay in the original Man of Steel, and he was completely terrible in the other one, and now he's actually gotten worse than before. But it's not actor-wise that concerns me about this movie. It's the character itself. From Man of Steel all the way to Justice League, they have treated Superman so terribly. When you kill the symbol of hope, one of the greatest superheroes that has ever been written on a piece of paper, and you kill him in your second movie, only to revive him in the third. I mean, what stakes do you have anymore for this character? I mean, he's basically invincible at this point, just like the other characters. And how they just literally handled it, it broke me in every way. Ever since the direction of Batman v Superman, the direction that it took was so poor. That left me in a crippling depression that would probably make me last like 3 days, or a week at the most. I hate this movie. Yes, even while acknowledging that it's a marginal improvement from Batman v Superman, they're both still bad. If I had one magic lamp wish I had right now, it would be for this movie to fail. For everyone involved with it to fail. To have this movie somehow bomb so spectacularly that DC or Warner Brothers doesn't make any more of these. And the worst part about it is, it's not gonna stop. People will continue paying money to go see these movies. I counted it up, basically timeline-wise. First movie, 143 minutes. The second movie, 150 minutes. This movie, 120 minutes. I make that the better part of 7 hours of my life. Matt Reeves has created 2/3 of a trilogy that is about a character-driven story about one of my favorite characters of all time, who I've been traveling for ever since the beginning, and makes it up for a satisfying conclusion in just 6.5 hours. This has taken them 7 hours in this franchise just to get from point A to point A, just to set up a franchise for future movies. Everyone, if you go out and pay money to go see Justice League, it's your own fault. You will be sorry for it, and you will be bringing down the collapse of the North American civilization. And I had it in my feeling that, you know, Zack Snyder was going to pull it out of the bag after that certain tragedy of his and do something to the point where he can prove me wrong. But you know what? I'm so right on so many levels. And Justice League really is that bad. Alright guys, that was my very long review of, Justice League. Comment below, let me know what you thought about the movie. Find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. And also, be sure to subscribe for more. My name is Luke Nukem, and I'll see you after my therapy session. Bye.
When the storm is raging inside your heart, something's gonna break and stay there.